In this EventSentry training session, I'll be walking you through the EventSentry Management Console. The Management Console is used to configure EventSentry and is one of the two components in EventSentry with the user interface, the other one being the web reports, where you can view reports and just analyze the data that EventSentry is collecting. The Management Console is installed on the host where you install EventSentry with the setup, and there's a shortcut on the desktop and of course in the Start menu. When you open the Management Console, you'll see something similar to this, which is the welcome dialog, showing you all the components and some steps you can do to get started with EventSentry. On the top right here, you can see the current version that you're running of EventSentry along with the configuration revision. So the configuration revision is just a number that increases every time you save the configuration. So here, the revision is 99, and that's useful for troubleshooting because you can correlate that number with the configuration revision on your agents to make sure that they have the latest configuration, the one that you're looking at in the Management Console. And finally, on the bottom here, you can see the maintenance agreement, whether it's valid, until how much longer it's valid, and so forth. I'm not going to go and delve into the actual features and explain them, but instead give you just a general overview of how the Management Console is structured so you know where to find things and how it's organized. So we're going to start with the ribbon up there. So obviously here we can access on the home button the general areas, the general components that I've already covered. So collector, heartbeat agent, AD monitor, network services, and some shortcuts to the help file and the web reports. We have anything that we can do to manage groups can be found on this tab here, also down here. So groups is where you organize your computers in EventSentry. Packages is down here, where we essentially store the configuration rules. So which event logs are we collecting, which log files are we monitoring, which system health information are we looking at, are we analyzing disk space, performance, services, that sort of thing. Security and compliance packages, so that's something that will provide an additional layer on top of just the regular event log monitoring. And then finally the validation script packages, where we run a number of scripts to ensure that the configuration of your network is up to date, there aren't any security violations, potential insecure settings, and so forth. Finally, we have the actions. So this is where you configure where information is sent to, for example, email alerts, and also the database. So with the default installation that we have here, we have email notifications set up and the primary database where data is being stored. The Management Console also includes the event log viewer, so you don't have to use the Windows Event Viewer. Now, the Windows Event Viewer does offer some additional capabilities, so this is not designed or to replace the Event Viewer, but just to give you quick access if you wanted to just take a brief look at the events on the computer where EventSentry is installed. But let's start and let's make our way down from the top. So we already explored the summary screen, nothing really additional to say here. Here are some global options that you can explore, how computer names are written, and some other settings for Max temp files, boot settings, and so forth. Here on the services dialog, you can see all the services, all the components in EventSentry. You can see view their resource usage, and also stop and restart those services. Collector dialog, this is where we configure the collector component, security settings, and so forth. Heartbeat monitor, here we configure the polling interval of the heartbeat monitor and other components. Settings for the heartbeat monitor, same thing here with AD monitor. There's not a whole lot to configure here. Here's a warning message telling us that the group policy management feature is not installed. It has to be installed on this computer, but you really just configure which database the Active Directory data should be stored in. Network services, another component. If we expand it, we can see all the sub features inside the network services. You can click those and make configuration changes there, such as which ports to listen to, which database are we writing syslog data to, and the same goes for the SNMP trap daemon. So here you just really configure all those sub features of the network services. The scripts container here gives us some general information about the scripts. When was the last time we refreshed the scripts from the EventSentry website? So we do provide automatic updates there that can be downloaded in the background. With the scripts, we're distinguishing between two types of scripts: user embedded and managed scripts. So managed scripts are coming from EventSentry, and the user scripts are your scripts. But we'll go into this in a little more detail in a separate video. Finally, we've got the groups here. So here we can create groups with all the hosts that we're monitoring, whether that's servers, workstations, network devices, and so forth. This looks like that. And here we have the EventSentry packages. This is where you will spend most of your time in. This was split up into 5 sections: event logs, log files, system health, security compliance, and validation scripts. I already mentioned that earlier, but if you expand them, you can see here all the packages. And that's a concept in EventSentry, again, that I will go into more detail later. But packages are assigned to hosts, either statically or dynamically, and changes are made over here, and it looks the same for all the features. So system health, you'll have packages and so forth. And then under security compliance, we have packages and so forth. And then we have the actions. So here we can see all the different actions that are configured. Currently not a whole lot, just email and database. That's what EventSentry ships with, but you can add more actions here, processes to trigger corrective actions, for example, control services, reboot machines, forward data via syslog, and so forth. So quite a few options available here. So that's configured right there. And then, like I mentioned earlier, the built-in event viewer, as well as the application and services logs that are also available here. As far as configuring the actual management console, you can do that via Tools Options. So this is the only settings that you won't find down here. Variables, again, separate video for that, are configured here. By default, there are no variables. Log files and types, custom event logs that you may want to monitor, downloaded packages, license management, that's important. This is where you'll find your licenses, number of utilities here, testing filter rules, for example, running the database purge utility, that is, remote update utility, and then options. Here in the options dialog, you can customize the EventSentry management console, the usability of it, so different skin themes, different styles for the ribbon, for example, configuring the pop-up windows, backup frequency. By default, for example, EventSentry backs up the local configuration every day and keeps the last 30 ones. You can close the management console automatically if there's no activity to free it up for the users, for example. Configure the language, switch between English and German for the help file. The version check that's built in, you can enable, disable that. Customize email notifications. Agent management remote update feature, you can customize this here, a topic for another video. You can hide certain features, so just certain things that you do not need. For example, if you're not using AD monitor, you can simply uncheck that and then it will disappear. On the left here, you configure proxy servers and also configure quick tools that are available when you managing a remote host in the groups. And that pretty much concludes the overview of the management console. The management console actually is just one file. That is located in the installation directory of EventSentry. So if you're troubleshooting a remote host and you maybe want to use the EventSentry event viewer, for example, or you want to just view, okay, which rules are present and so forth, then you can simply copy that EventSentry _ GUI x64 file to the remote computer and run it there. Now, would not recommend actually doing any management tasks on it, like changing the configuration, managing agents. So it's definitely not designed to do that, but you can simply copy that one file. There are no other dependencies to the remote computer, run it there and see, what is that agent seeing, for example.